Lesson 34.1 is going to talk about the surface area of prisms and cylinders. So in our notes today, we're going to talk about what the lateral area and total surface area of these two geometric figures will be. Okay, so open up your Springboard book. We are starting on page 495. Okay, so we're going to start by looking at this picture here. Now this picture is a net of a triangular prism. And in this scenario, they're talking about that they're taking this group of junior rangers camping, and this will be the tent that they will be sleeping in. And it's in the shape of a triangular prism. The net below is a pattern of one of the tents. Okay, so remember, a net is just that figure kind of unfolded, so that way you can see all the dimensions of it. Okay, but the important part here is to examine the two smaller right triangles. Let me kind of point those out. So these two smaller right triangles. Okay, it says when the tent is zipped back together, they form a triangle that is congruent to the equilateral triangle on top. So those two right triangles put together is the same as that equilateral triangle, okay, of the base of this prism, okay? So we're going to start by finding the area and perimeter of this triangle. Maybe start with the perimeter. That's a little easier to find. So in our equilateral triangle, if all sides are 6, well, we know our perimeter, if we add all sides up, should be 18 feet. Now the area is going to be a little trickier because to find area, we have to take 1/2 the base times the height. Now the base I know is 6. But that height, we would have to drop a little perpendicular line in there for that. Maybe I'll draw this on the side so we have a little bit more space. If I drop in that perpendicular bisector, that makes this side both 3. Okay, this is then a 30, 60, 90 triangle. So if our short leg is 3, that makes our height 3√3, right? Okay, so I kind of helped you guys set it up. Figure out what the area of that would be and leave it in terms of the radical. Okay, well, we should have got, well, 1/2 of 6 is 3. 3 times 3√3 would give us 9. 9√3 feet squared would be our area. Okay. Now let's kind of jump to question 3 here. It says, when the tent is constructed, what is the distance between the two bases? So looking at my picture here, the distance between my two bases would be that 8-foot distance. Okay, it connects from the one triangle base to the other. So we have 8 feet. Okay. Now we're going to need these two numbers here in a second, this perimeter and the 8 feet, because on the next question on the next page here, okay, is going to talk about the lateral faces. Now remember, the lateral faces are the faces along the sides. You have your base edges and your lateral edges. Okay, remember the laterals on there, all of your faces of your geometric figure. But it says here that notice the lateral faces of the prism form a larger rectangle. Maybe let's put a rectangle on here. Okay, and all I did was copy the picture from the previous page, so I didn't have to flip back and forth. But they're saying if we put all 3 lateral faces together, it forms one bigger rectangle. Well, what's the dimensions of that new bigger rectangle? Well, we still see it still has a distance of 8 feet, okay, for our length, right? 8 feet. But our width would be this whole distance. So it's all 3 lateral faces together, 6 plus 6 plus 6 would be 18 feet. Now, how do these dimensions of the larger rectangle relate to the triangular bases, okay, and the distance between the two bases that we found on the previous page? Okay, well, they should be the same. Okay, 8 feet is the distance between the two bases, and that didn't change on this picture. And 18 was the perimeter of that triangular base. So if we notice, the dimensions of the larger rectangle has the same width as the perimeter of our base. Okay, so that's what's going to lead us into finding our lateral area. And I'm just going to jump to part D here. Okay, so it says if H represents the height between the two bases, so our height is always the perpendicular distance that connects our two bases. Okay, so connecting the height, okay, for finding the lateral area, which means the area of just your one piece there, you would find the perimeter of your base times the height. Now in this one, the perimeter of our base again was 18. The height, which connects the two bases, is 8. So if we multiply that out, we should get 144 feet squared. Okay, and again, that gives us our lateral area. Lateral area is the area of the figure excluding your two bases. So it's the area of just your faces all put together. Okay? Now, the total surface area of a prism is the sum of the lateral area and the area of your two bases put together. So you take your LA, which I think actually is down here. So this total surface area will be your lateral area plus the area of your two bases. Now remember, big B, okay, big B is the area of the base. Okay? So in our particular prism here, our area of our base, okay, 5A is where they asked us to find the total surface area. Okay, the area of our base, remember, was 9√3. So we would have to do that times 2, plus our lateral area, which I found above was 144. So let's just put that in a calculator really quick. I would have 9√3, and we'll times that by 2. Okay, add that to our lateral area, which we found was 144. And there is our total area. So let's say 175.2. Feet squared. Okay. So let's just actually practice a problem where we just find the surface area, not so springboardy like the rest of these questions are going to make it out to be. Let's try the check your understanding number 9. Okay, so remember to find our lateral area, we have to take the perimeter of the base and times it by the height. And remember, the height is the distance that connects your two bases together. So if we start with 9B, find the lateral area. Let's actually look at part C first, where we identify our bases. So remember, the bases are your two congruent shapes that are parallel to each other. So in this, we have a triangular base, and I have 1, 2, 3 rectangular lateral faces. So if we're finding the lateral area, you just have to find the perimeter of your base times the height. Remember, the height is the distance that connects your two bases. So I'm going to have you guys start with B. Find the lateral area of the triangular prism above. I'm going to move this down. So for the lateral area, you should have gotten 180 square units. So the perimeter of our base would be, get my pen, okay. So 9 plus 12 plus 15. So what is that, 36. Now the height, you have to make sure you use the right dimension here. The height is the distance that connects your two bases. So in this one, the height was 5. 36 times 5 should be 180. Okay. So now that we have the lateral area, we can find the total surface area by taking the lateral area and adding the area of our two bases. So find the area of your two bases, add it to the 180 we got above, okay, for the lateral area, and see what you get for the total surface area of this triangular, or this, right, yeah, triangular prism, sorry. Okay, so the answer for this one was 288. 288 feet squared. So it'd be, your area of the base would be 1/2 your base times your height, so 1/2 9 times 12. Okay, so that's the area of one triangle. So you'd have to double it and add it to your lateral area. Okay, so just remember, when you're finding the perimeter of the base, make sure you identify what the base actually is on your prism. Okay. And the height is always what's the distance that connects your two bases together. Okay. So we're just going to move on now to the cylinder. And I'm just going to kind of go over the formula with you guys and then let you guys just try a problem instead of doing all this. Like, all the questions are relating to this picture down here, this travel sack that the campers are using. But instead of that, we're just going to talk about the lateral surface area. Okay. So it says if the sack is laid on a table, so okay, if we take this cylinder, okay, what is the lateral shape, okay, of the cylinder? So think of this like a soup can that has a label around it, right? This label that goes there to there. We've kind of talked about this before, but what's the lateral shape that we get if we undid this cylinder? Okay, so remember this would be a rectangle. Rectangle. So we're finding the lateral area of the rectangle. Okay, it's going to be the kind of really similar to what we were doing before. Let me kind of move this back up a little bit. Okay. To find the lateral area for a cylinder, it's going to be 2 pi r times h. So remember in the previous example, our lateral area was the perimeter times h. But what is this formula, 2 pi r? Okay, remember 2 pi r is the circumference. So we're technically taking the circumference times h, which circumference is the perimeter of a circle. So it's the same formula, but instead of using perimeter or circumference, it's just 2 pi r. Okay. And then to find the total surface area of any sphere, you would take that lateral area and add 2 times the base, because on a cylinder, you do have your 2 circular bases, right? So you have your 2 bases, that'll be the area of those 2. And then the lateral area would be technically that rectangle, but the rectangle's length and width would be the circumference and the height. So I just made this example for you guys. So instead of doing the book problems that are a little bit more tricky because they're very springboardy, I'm just going to have you guys try this problem. Okay, so I gave you a cylinder with a radius 8 and a distance between the 2 bases of 7. So start by finding your lateral area. Okay, once you have the lateral area, find the total surface area. So that's what I want you guys to find, the total surface area of that cylinder in the picture on the left here. Okay, if you did it correctly, you should have gotten this answer. Okay, so we would do 2 pi r, so 2 pi times 8 times the height, and add that to 2 pi r squared, right? That's the area of a circle. So pi, or let's say r squared, so that'd be 64 pi. Okay, so if you crunk that all out in a calculator, you should have gotten 753.98 meters squared. Okay, so we will practice more problems tomorrow in class, but just know how to find the surface area of a prism or a cylinder is the lateral area plus 2 times the base.